Kenyans, every year we inject another 800,000. Of these 800,000, 50,000 are absorbed by the corporate sector. Another 120,000 are absorbed by the formal SME sector. The remainder, about 600, 700, enter a space that we can actually call a lottery. They are not sure of what to do. They don't know how much they will make. On a good day, they make 100 shillings, sometimes 200 shillings a day. On a very good day, they make 300 shillings. And on a completely bad day, the council askaris go away with all their wares and they make zero. That is the kind of situation we are in, and that is where millions of Kenyans are. In our plan, as we listened to the people of Kenya around the world, we came to the conclusion that an inclusive, employment-creating economic model is about investing the limited capital available where it creates the most employment, and that is at the bottom of the pyramid. And that is why we came to the conclusion that the bottom-up economic model was the most optimal for all our productive sectors. Our plan, therefore, has prioritized the following 7 sectors: agriculture, MSMEs, housing and settlement, manufacturing, the digital superhighway and creative economy, the service economy, environment and climate change. These are the critical sectors that we want to drive our development. I will talk about the enablers further down the road. And we have chosen these 6 sectors on the following criteria: their ability to bring down the cost of living, our intention to eradicate hunger, and the big question of creating employment, and the resultant expanding of our tax revenue base, as well as improving our foreign exchange balance and the whole subject of inclusive growth. Those are the 6 parameters that we used to arrive at why agriculture, why housing, why infrastructure. These are the criteria we used. Let me explain to you why. For example, we believe as Kenya Kwanza that investing in agriculture will give us not just employment, it will also give us foreign exchange, it will give us, it will eradicate hunger, it will expand our incomes, it will also expand our industrialization agenda. Investing in agriculture is because also agriculture is the most competitive sector in Kenya. We have the best practices of agriculture anywhere in the world. If you go, for example, to the flower auction in Amsterdam, 25% of flowers come from Kenya, and they are competitively grown. Agriculture is equally important because it controls 50% of our economy, 25% directly and 25% indirectly. Why do we believe that agriculture is the best place to invest? Number one, increasing agricultural productivity is the secret, because agricultural productivity has not grown at the same in tandem with growth in our population. And therefore, it is very important that we target agricultural productivity. It will give us a quick turnaround of our investment, because what we need to do is to capitalize the agricultural sector. And how do we capitalize the agricultural sector? And why is it a quick turnaround? Number one, capitalizing the agricultural sector, you don't have to buy the cows. The cows are already there. All you need is animal feed. You don't have to buy the farm. The farm is already there. You don't have to hire the farmers. The farmers are already there. So there is already a stock of infrastructure and resources that you can begin with. Therefore, we need to capitalize that sector so that we can provide animal feed, we can provide good quality seed, we can provide good quality affordable fertilizer, and we can provide agrochemicals. That will turn around the agricultural sector in a very short time. Let me give you an example, because it is important for us to understand where we are. We have 2.2 million dairy cows lactating at any one time in Kenya. On average, the national average is that we get 2.5 liters per cow. It's possible to stretch these cows to 10, 15, 20, we have 40, we have 50. Let's not go there. Let's just assume we double from 2.5 to 5 liters. And that doesn't take any miracle. It just takes provision of animal feed. Our technical teams have already calculated how much that will cost. It will cost 4,000 shillings per cow. If we went there, we would actually double our milk production from 5 billion liters to 10 billion liters within a year, just by providing animal feed. We would double, and the farmers who are here know. We have listened to farmers in Kitale, we've listened to farmers in Embu, we've listened to farmers across the country. They are speaking the same language, animal feed. And if we doubled our milk production, we could possibly have an extra 200 billion shillings if we sold it to our neighbors. I want to say, I am not talking about buying new cows. I'm not talking about getting new farmers. Same farmers, same cows, same infrastructure. They are doing it already. All we need to do is to capitalize them. Many of them don't have the money to buy animal feed. That's all. That's all. We have costed what that will cost us, and it will cost us 8.8 billion shillings. And if we deploy 8.8 billion shillings, within the year, they will return the 8.8 billion shillings and make for themselves another 10 billion shillings. We will get more people working. We will get our milk coolers working. We will get our processors working. We will get our exporters working. And the secret with agriculture is that it has the highest multiplier on matters employment. Investing in agriculture also will help us deal with the animal of cost of living. There is a paradox. Farmers, on one hand, looking for higher incomes for themselves, and consumers, on the other hand, looking for cheaper products. That's a contradiction. How do you sort out that paradox? Agriculture has the potential to sort it out for us. Investing in agriculture, a farmer who produces 10 bucks today per acre because they are struggling, the same farmer can produce 20, 25 bags if we supported them with a capital to plow in time, get the correct certified seed, get subsidized fertilizer, and ensure that the post-harvest challenges are managed. The same farmer, in capitalizing their operations, they can double their production. And when they double their production, it means they can sell at a lower price to the consumer. Therefore, the challenge of cost of living is not too scientific. The challenge of cost of living is increasing agricultural productivity, period. This whole story about Ukraine and all this is a lost cause. And I want to say the following, that if we had not withdrawn the fertilizer subsidy that was there in our Big Four plan, we wouldn't be in the crisis we are in today. It is as simple as that. If we had stuck to the plan on food security, ensuring that we support our farmers, we capitalize the agricultural sector, ladies and gentlemen, we wouldn't be where we are. It is as simple as that. I have told you already that we are spending 300 billion shillings every year to import food that we can grow locally. Let me give you an example. Edible oil alone, this year, we spent 90 billion this year to import edible oil, which we can get from soya, canola, simsim, palm oil. All these are not foreign crops. These are crops we can grow in Kenya. We can save enormous amounts of money of hard-earned foreign exchange if we changed our model and put in place mechanisms, which we are suggesting here. We spoke with farmers in Busia. We spoke with farmers in Kakamega. They told us they are ready to grow the oil crops. All they wanted is a sure market that if they grow, somebody will buy them. That's all they asked. That's all they asked. And for sure, if we are importing 90 billion, we can start there. We can substitute. We can tell them, instead of us importing, please grow. We have at least 90 billion we can buy. We can begin there. The same goes with rice. This year, we have imported 25 billion worth of rice. We can surely double our rice production in Kenya. It's possible. From where to Ahero and to all the other places, we can surely double our rice production, and we can actually grow. We are at the moment, I think, doing 18% production locally. We can do 50%. And if we did 50%, we would save 15 billion shillings of foreign exchange that we are using. And that 15 billion would go to our farmers and be in our economy. Agriculture equally will help us sort out the challenge of unemployment, investing in agriculture, because agriculture has the highest multiplier effect on employment creation, especially because investing in agriculture means the agrochemical factories are working, the fertilizer factories are working, the value addition further the road manufacturing is working, the agro-based industries are working, and therefore it has the highest multiplier effect in terms of creating jobs. So investing in agriculture is investing in jobs. And remember, we are trying to sort out three things. We are trying to sort out unemployment, we're trying to create jobs at any one time, we're trying to expand our tax revenue, our tax base, and we are trying to grow our export earnings, or at least save our foreign exchange. Let me also say, agriculture will also make many Kenyans, if we invest in agriculture, save on their incomes. Today, on average, every Kenyan spends 54% of their income on food. 54%. In fact, the poorer families are spending 60% of their income on food alone. And our statistics show that we spend 3 trillion shillings on food as a nation. Just imagine for a moment, if we saved just 10% on food, because we have improved our productivity. From 3 trillion, 10%, we would save 300 billion that would go somewhere else in our economy. So investing in agriculture has a bearing on what remains in your pocket. It's what remains in your pocket. Let me also say the following. Hunger is a big problem in Kenya. We have close to 2 million people who suffer hunger. Majority of them, for your information, are farmers. Majority of these 2 million people who are suffering hunger, it means they can't grow enough to eat. As Kenya Kwanza, we have worked out with our agroeconomists a package for these 2 million farmers, for us to give them inputs and make sure that they use the farm they are doing now and produce enough for them to eat and a surplus. We have a program for 5 years to invest 90 billion shillings. 30 billion shillings revolving fund and 12 billion shillings every year to support them on extension service and making sure they do the right thing. In 5 years, these 2 million farmers, once supported the way I have suggested, they will not only produce enough food for them to eat and get out of hunger, but they will generate a surplus In total, they will create 500 billion shillings worth of product. From 90 billion. From 90 billion, they will create 500 billion. This is the 2 million our competitors want to put on handouts. Their handout program in 5 years will cost 720 billion with zero return. Our plan will cost 90 billion with 500 billion shillings return. That is the difference. Agriculture equally will stimulate our industrialization. All of you know that 50% of our entire manufacturing sector is agro-based. 40% is food and beverage, and another 10% other non-food agricultural manufacturing. So, increasing the productivity of our agricultural sector naturally influences our manufacturing and industrialization program. So, what are we going to do as Kenya Kwanza? We are going to provide adequate, affordable working capital to all our farmers, either through their farmer organization groups or cooperatives or other farmer organizations, so that we can capitalize our agricultural sector, because the single most important impediment to the productivity of our agricultural sector is capital. Number two, farmers told us across the country that they needed to guarantee their returns. Every farmer want to know that when they produce, there is a market, and that they will not get stuck with their products. So that is where we want to go, to provide GMR, a guaranteed minimum return mechanism that is built around insurance, so that every farmer will know that when they produce, there will be a market and they will not lose. We will transform, of course, our 2 million resource-poor farmers to produce food surplus. We will reduce our dependency on basic food imports, especially edible oil and rice. Those are our two targets. And we will invest in the underperforming products, coffee, coffee, cashew nut, and of course invest in the emerging crops, macadamia, avocado, and the area of flowers, and the area of flowers and vegetables. And we will also move up the value chain. Our tea, we only value add 5% of our tea. Our strategy is to move value addition of our tea to 50% in the next 3 years. The second sector, that's agriculture. The second sector we want to focus on is transforming our MSMEs. I have given you the statistics. The statistics is that we have close to 15 million people in that space. 10 million of them hardly make 100, 200, 300 shillings. Our intervention is threefold. Number one, we want to create business infrastructure for these people. There must be markets, there must be spaces, there must be areas where business can be done legitimately and decriminalize people's enterprises. Number two, there must be legislation to protect everybody's business. The details are in the manifesto. And number three, the single largest challenge the MSMEs face is that they pay interest on credit that none of you here can believe. Most of them pay 10% per day, which translates to 3,600 per year. Better ones pay 10% per month, which translates into 120% per year. And in so doing, their profits are eaten by just one item, credit. Our plan is to ensure through the Hustler Fund, and we have said we are going to commit 50 billion shillings every year to the Hustler Fund, so that the Mamamboga and the Boda Kai and the fellow at the kiosk and the fellow at the saloon and the good lady running a saloon somewhere can find credit that is not predatory. And these are the numbers. If we increase, because that's the net effect. The net effect is that we will increase the earnings of these 10 million Kenyans by 200 shillings per day. That is 2 billion shillings a day. And that is 760 billion shillings a year. Any manufacturer who gets 1% of that market gets 7.6 billion shillings business. So when we say bottom up, it is not the same as bottom versus up. It is bottom up. Let me go to the third subject of housing. Housing, ladies and gentlemen, we are short of 2 million houses as we speak. And every year, the requirement is we build 250,000 houses. We are only building 50,000 houses every year. And of the 50,000 houses, only 2% are low-cost houses. The rest are out of reach to most Kenyans. The challenge is that that problem is a moving target. Every year, 500,000 Kenyans join or go into cities and towns. The rate of urbanization is 4.4%. At the rate of 4.4%, every year, 500,000 Kenyans find themselves in urban settlements. And we already have a shortage of houses. So as Kenya Kwanza, we looked at the challenge and we decided to turn it into an opportunity. We've turned it into an opportunity to do several things. Number one, of course, to create jobs. Number two is to create affordable, low-cost houses. How are we going to do it? This is how we plan to do it. First, we need to face the challenge of land. The biggest cost that goes into housing is the cost of land. We decided that we are going to do public land or we are going to get land that is not expensive, even if it is away from the city, and provide infrastructure to get people from where it is to the city. Number two, we are going to work with developers to structure low-cost financing. Today, many developers get loans at 14, 15, 20%. We want to structure a 3% to a maximum of 5% financing for low-cost housing. The third component is we want to engage modern technology of building. We do not have to use stones. We can employ new technologies that deliver for us cheaper houses. Number four, we have to standardize housing products, windows, doors, and all the other infrastructure. Today, everybody, each one of us is building a designer house, because every house, the windows are different, the doors are different. So it's a designer house because it's all different. What we are going to do is we are going to standardize so that we can mass produce housing products. If we know that a one-bedroom house, the size of the door will be like this, you can produce them en masse. The size of the window will be like this, you can produce them en masse. And our Juakali sector can produce these housing products en masse. That brings down the cost by almost 30%, just by eliminating the designer structures of every house. Of course, we all know designer suits are more expensive than all the other suits. That's what we are doing. And finally, we have to structure an off-take plan. Low cost, long-term mortgage. Let me tell you, my regret is that we didn't implement this housing plan that was in the Big Four. Because our plan is to build 250 housing units every year, and our plan is to ensure that at least 50% of these houses are low-cost houses. We want to make it possible for a person who is paying 10,000 shillings today rent to still pay 10,000 for a two-bedroomed house, and in 15, 20 years, the house belongs to them because they are paying mortgage. It is possible to deliver a house of $1 million, maximum 2 million shillings, and therefore the mortgage can fit into the rent citizens are paying today. That way, we will create more property owners in our great country. Today, we have about 30,000 mortgages. It is our belief that we should get to 1 million mortgages in the next 5 years. The fifth item that I want to go to is manufacturing. Manufacturing is the place we are not doing well. In the last 5 years, manufacturing as a contribution of our GDP has gone down from 9% to 7%, 9.3% to 7%. That reverse is not healthy for our country. The challenge with our manufacturing is that it has always focused on capital-intensive investment rather than labor-intensive outcomes. We are focused on 5 areas in our manufacturing plan. Leather, let me begin there. It's a very sad story, let me tell you. on leather. Kenya has the third largest herd in the continent of Africa of cows. Third largest. Do you understand? We have close to 30 million livestock. We slaughter 3 million livestock every year. We can only use 10% of hides and skin, 10%. We were in Kajiado, we were in Wajir, and the citizens there were telling us, why are you allowing us to throw away our hides and skins? It's being eaten by dogs. Sometimes we have to bury it, sometimes we have to dispose it. In fact, disposing it has become a challenge. Meanwhile, we are importing 20 million pairs of shoes every year made from leather products, made from skins and hides of other people's cows. We are burying our own leather, other people, then we go to buy other people's. Today, the leather industry is 15 billion, right? Thereabout, 15 billion shilling industry. We can move it to 140 billion shilling industry. Today, the leather industry employs 10,000 in the formally and another 17,000. We can employ 120,000 Kenyans in the leather industry. I want you to listen to me carefully. I am not talking about us importing anything. We have the cows. We are slaughtering them anyway. The only problem is that we are not making use of the skin and hides. I don't want to say it's stupid. Yeah? I don't want to say that. But you see, that's where we are. So, what are we proposing as Kenya Kwanza? We're saying we will turn around the leather industry. We will invest. The reason why we took the SGR to Naivasha is because we thought we would use it to create a big industry out of the steam that is available readily there and out of the power that is readily available there. We will create a huge industry around the leather industry. Leather products, from shoes to bags to everything else that goes with leather, will be a big, and that does not require importing nothing. We have everything here. All we need to do is to leverage on technology and bring transfer of knowledge and skills, and we are good to go. Building products is another space that we have, especially if we are going to go to locals housing and implement our housing plan. The whole Juakali sector will be busy generating doors, generating windows, making sure that there are enough building material products in quarries and in all the other places. Pharmaceutical industry is another space. Our budget on health is 550 billion every year. Our expenditure, let me say, our total expenditure on health is 550 billion. 20% of that is pharmaceutical products and consumables. We are only producing 20%. It is possible for us to produce 100%. We have pharmaceutical companies here. Let me tell you the story. We have pharmaceutical companies here. They are producing at half the capacity. The reason why we are not exploiting that capacity, creating more jobs in the capacity that they are using so that we can supply our own pharmaceutical products is a very big guess. Garment and textile industry. That is the other space that we have. The garment industry today, we export $500 million which is about 50 billion of garments outside the country. When we signed into AGOA, we were supposed to produce the cotton to provide the yarn and the fabric for this export. As of today, 40%, not 40%, actually 40 billion of yarn and fabric is being imported from Asia to come and at the EPZ. I was in Kilifi last week, and the people working at the EPZ were asking me, Mr. Deputy President, we are producing garments here that we are exporting to America. We can also produce garments that can be consumed, that can be sold in Kenya. They have the technology. So that is a space we want to focus on. The whole cotton value chain, from growing of cotton, and I want to give you the good news, we are going to start growing big BT cotton in Kenya. Yes. It has higher yields. It is more drought resistant. The trials have been done, and the trials are very good. They are showing that we have very good productivity, and therefore, one more time, we will have our cotton industry up and running, and we can push that industry to another 100 billion shilling industry. I can say the same of edible oil. It's another value chain that can give us jobs. I can say the same of electric motorcycles and electric cars. That's another value chain we can develop here because we have the market for it here. We have a market of 200,000 border borders every year. That's a market we can supply from Kenya. Let me leave that there. We have huge space, good people, in manufacturing, and that is our focus. Number five, is the digital highway. We are saying it's time that we move into the digital space. That's where the whole world is going anyway. Most of our services are now on a digital platform. Very many investments are in that direction. What do we plan to do as Kenya Kwanza? We plan to do the following as Kenya Kwanza. Number one, we already have a 10,000 kilometer backbone, fiber optic backbone, that goes all the way to every sub-county. It already serves 60% of the population. Kenya Kwanza, we want to invest in what we called in electricity connection, the last mile. When we started the last mile on electricity in 2013, there were only 2.3 million connections. We now have 8.8 million connections to houses. What we will do with the internet and the digital highway is, in the next 5 years, we will extend the fiber by 100,000 kilometers. Let me repeat, so that you're clear. We will extend by 100,000 kilometers. How are we going to do it? We are going to extend it on the electricity grid backbone that already exists. Every home, every shopping center, every school, every dispensary, every hospital that is connected to the grid will be connected to the internet. And in 5 years, we will close the digital gap, and every Kenyan will have access to the internet. The many young people who today are struggling with bundles, the many young people who want to do their thing on the internet, or to make calls, or to communicate, they will have an opportunity to do so with ease from the comfort of their homes or at the shopping center, because we already have 24,000 markets connected to electricity, and those 24,000 markets will be connected to the internet. That will be the biggest revolution ever. We have the opportunity to create close to 5,000 new SMEs. Yes, sir. We have the opportunity to leverage on government delivery of government services. And we have the opportunity for online shopping and many other things that come with access to internet. And for your information, there is money to do it. We already have 15 billion shillings in the Universal Fund. So if we securitize the Universal, this whole program will cost about 40 billion. So if you have 15 billion, you can deliver the rest. It's as simple as that. There was a proposal by the Communication Authority to use the 15 billion to build a hotel. So I think deploying the last mile of the internet is more like it, because that is the core function of the Communication Authority. I have said, and let me repeat, every school that's on the grid, every hospital, every dispensary, every market that's on the grid will be connected. And the creative potential of our young people, the creative industry will now have the very perfect chance to be able to do their thing. The seventh space is the service economy. We believe as Kenya Kwanza that the service economy is a key factor in employment, expanding our tax base, expanding our tax revenues, and ensuring that we have foreign exchange. In that financial sector, we want to leverage on our SACCOs and cooperatives to deliver financial products, and especially credit, affordable credit, to the bottom of the pyramid. On top of the Hustler Fund, we're going to develop other packages that will make it possible for us to deliver financial products that create access to credit to the majority of people who do not have credit at the bottom of the pyramid. That way, we will expand their enterprises, and that way we will also make sure that they participate in job creation and in expanding our tax base. Under services, we also have tourism. Tourism, we are stuck at 2 million visitors for a very long time. We have to decide whether we want the sector to work for the few or to create jobs for the many. We just have to, if we continue we have to diversify our tourism product. It cannot continue to be beach and wildlife. We have to do adventure. We have to do culture. We have to do many other areas. And we have to create the infrastructure for young people. We have to create infrastructure that is affordable, low-cost hotels, bed and breakfast facilities. We have to budget hotels. We cannot continue to sell the high-end products because it just satisfies a few people. In fact, we are so stuck there that today you have so many exclusive facilities. Some of the facilities you pay 500,000 shillings a night. How many people will pay 500,000 shillings a night? What people? How are we going to grow our numbers? Thailand. Let me give you an example. Thailand, a country like, just like Kenya, our size, slightly more people, 70 million people, 50 something million in Kenya. So we are almost the same. But they do 40 million tourists every year because they have created so many niches and they have made it possible for so many people to travel. We can choose to continue our tourism to be high-end, and we will be stuck at 2 million. But if we took it to 20 million, we will have more people working in hotels. We will have more people helping with the transport. We will have. So, in fact, tourism is the ultimate trickle-down model that is causing a problem in our country. We just have to turn it the other way around. It cannot continue to be the way it is. It doesn't matter what you get out of 2 million people. It's not the same as if we had 10 million people coming to Kenya. If we had 10 million people coming to Kenya, as a factor, they say for every tourist employs 3 people. So the numbers will add up. So we just have to change the model and do a better package. I know players in the industry sector may have issues with that, but I think it's time. I think it's time. Finally, let me talk about aviation. And I'm going to single out the sugar industry because that's where we have a huge crisis. But let me talk about aviation. Africa has 15% of the population of the world, but we have only 2% of air traffic, meaning that there is potential, there is huge potential for us in the air travel space. Kenya Airways was doing well up to a certain point. And I dare say that the problem with Kenya Airways and the financial challenges therein are a reflection of internal and managerial mistakes rather than market prospects. It is not the market. It cannot be the market. There is a problem with management, and there is a problem with conflict of interest, and there is a problem that we all know. Being a national asset and being a strategic asset, Kenya Airways is not an asset we would want to let go at all. And therefore, it cannot also continue to be on life support forever. We have to agree. So our commitment as Kenya Kwanza is that we are going to develop a turnaround strategy for Kenya Airways within 2 years and bring it back to what it is supposed to do. And it is possible. Our sugar industry, and I was in Mumias the other day, has suffered the brand of underinvestment. We have committed as Kenya Kwanza that aside from writing off all the debts that are owed by government, we are also going to negotiate all the other debts owed to banks and other individuals with a view of paying them off so that we can make the factories in Mumias, in Zoya, and all the other government-owned factories free of debt. And then we can then inject new capital and ensure that we have modern facilities that will be able to deliver to our sugarcane farmers the same way the private mills are doing. It cannot be that all the private mills are doing well and all the government mills are making losses. It's not possible. There must be a structural problem. Let me also talk about sports because it's an important sector for us. We are a great sporting nation and we need to leverage our sports to do at least 3 things. Number 1, to project our country and profile our country in a manner that we can leverage on the other sectors of the economy, number 1. Number 2, we must create a big sports garment industry out of Kenya, out of our sportsmen and women. Because everywhere in the world, if you said this shoe comes from Kenya, the sporting nation, you will get a premium price for it. And of course, we must make sure that the fund that we set up to deal with matters of sports infrastructure, which currently is being used to do other things, we have to ring fence that money. We collected, I think, 15 billion, but it was used to build hospitals instead of used to build sports infrastructure. All the resources coming from the fund must go to developing sports infrastructure. As I conclude, I want to talk about environment and climate change. We commit as Kenya Kwanza to grow 5 million acres of trees under agroforestry. We also commit to build industry out of solid waste. And we are going to begin with Sakaja in Nairobi. We're going to begin with Sakaja in Nairobi. Solid waste, apart from being an environmental hazard, we can flip it and create jobs, industry, power, and many other products, building materials out of it. That will be our focus. Let me talk about 2 or 3 enablers. One of them is going to be healthcare. We have been on the campaign trail and we have committed to the people of Kenya that we will have a universal health insurance that will make sure that every Kenyan will go to hospital and they will walk away without paying a penny after they get treatment. Let me say 4 things. The rest are in the manifesto. Let me say 4 things. We need to do 4 things. Number 1, as a matter of urgency and within our first 3 months, we will procure and put in place a state-of-the-art health integrated information management system that will make it possible for health records of every Kenyan to be portable, so that you don't have to write on paper every time, and you don't have to go for MRI here, and then you go to another hospital, you do another MRI. It should be possible to make that MRI that was done in this hospital available in the next hospital, because we have. That will also assist us in making sure that we have information on the health of our country and how many people are in what category and what do we need to do, and even what kind of drugs we need to keep on our shelves. Secondly, we are going to sort out and establish a stakeholder-managed national procurement scheme for drugs to leverage on bulk purchase and also to bring transparency and accountability in public procurement of drugs to eliminate the KEMSA scandals. What are we saying? What are we saying? We are saying the following. The same thing that happens with procurement of our petroleum products. Industry, government, they come together and they procure collectively in bulk for Kenya. And that is why our oil products are the most competitive. So KEMSA will not procure alone. In fact, we had a meeting with the health stakeholders, and they told us a simple hospital, one hospital, I don't want to mention their name, said they buy drugs as a single hospital much more cheaply than KEMSA buys, but KEMSA buys in bulk. So they were wondering, I thought if you buy in bulk, you get a lower price. But KEMSA buys in bulk, but pays more. So we are recommending as Kenya Kwanza that the same model that involves stakeholders, we are going to bring private hospitals, we're going to bring public hospitals, we are going to bring other players, and we purchase drugs for Kenya collectively, so that we eliminate all matters to do with transparency and we avoid the problems in KEMSA. We have committed, because we had meetings with health professionals and people in the professional sector, to deal with the challenge that currently exists between health professionals and the counties and the national government. That space there is not tidy, and we have committed ourselves that we will resolve that space. Counties are saying they do not have the money. Give me some water. I thought you were bringing me water. You're giving me more instructions. Thank you very much. And thirdly, we have worked with health professionals, and our information is that we will redesign the National Hospital Insurance Fund to make it trustworthy to deliver on its mandate. And our analysis shows that a contribution structure where the lowest now is contributing 500. The lowest in our structure will contribute not 500 but 300. And the highest will contribute 3,000. That structure of contribution will fund everybody's requirements, and there will be no out of pocket. We will stop the harambes, and there will be no additional resources required apart from the public ones. Do you understand what you are saying? So the highest paying, like yours truly, will now move from 1,700 to 3,000. And the lowest will go down from 500 to 300. So that we can, that continuum, our estimate is that we will get a product that covers the 550 billion shillings we need to take care of our health requirements annually. Another enabler, of course, is education. You agree with me that education is in a crisis. Education, especially higher education, is in a crisis. Most of our universities are struggling. In fact, most of our universities only get maybe 50%, maybe 55% of the money they require to be able to run the programs they run. And as a result, universities have 65 billion shilling debt to NHIF, to NSSF, to pay as you earn. So, in fact, the Auditor General said the other day, all our universities are technically insolvent. That's the sorry state of our universities. So, we have to rethink what we are doing with our higher education. The proposal we are making as Kenya Kwanza is that we are going to merge the Higher Education Loans Board, the University Funding Board, and the TVET Funding Board into one unit. And this unit will be responsible for scholarships, it will be responsible for funding, and it will assess all students. Today, there are students who don't need scholarship, but they are given scholarship. So there will be assessment so that we can close the gap. And it should be possible for us as government to also know what are the skills. Sometimes we are training people in fields that we already have a surplus. We should be able to say as a government, if it is this field we have a surplus, we cannot fund. Let us fund the fields that we have shortages, so that we can close the gaps and be able to drive our Vision 2030 the way it is. So we are going to call this organization the National Skills and Funding Council, so that it looks at the skills and it funds the skills that are necessary for the trajectory we are going into. And then finally, we will complete the construction of the 52 TVET institutions that are not yet constructed. We have 52 constituencies that do not have. We have 250 wards that do not have a vocational training center. We will do those. We will construct those also. And then we will also close the gap on teachers in our schools. We have a gap of 116,000 teachers. We have undertaken as Kenya Kwanza that we are going to hire the 116,000 teachers in two tranches. 50% year one, 50% year two. We have also undertaken that to lower the cost of education, we are going to have a special tariff for utilities, for power, for water, for internet to our learning institutions. We are going to have a special tariff. We have also said that the current program on school feeding of 2 million school-going children, we're going to expand it. And we have agreed that we are going to work with counties. We're going to double to 4 million as national government. And every county that want to match, we are going to assist them to match a shilling for a shilling so that we can move the number of our children who have food in school to 8 million. That's our target. Statistics are very clear. We have close to 200,000 kids who are not in school, and the only reason they are not in school is that there is no food. And statistics has shown that if there is a school feeding program, the attendance and the performance is enhanced. We have agreed with the teachers that delocalization will be at the place when you are being hired. If you want to work in another county, not a home county, you will be hired at that level, and you will be paid an allowance for walking away from home. We have also agreed that the teacher continuous career development that currently is paid for by teachers will be paid for by government going forward. Finally, our youth and women are the largest component of our plan. Apart from them being cutting across all these sectors, when we are talking about jobs, when we are talking about internet, when we are talking about all this, but specifically we had engagement with the young people of this nation, and we agreed with them that there will be a youth ministry. We also agreed with them that we will have a special advisor at the presidency sitting in cabinet to ensure that all government programs and ministries are youth friendly. We also have a special charter with women, which we have signed. And we have agreed that 50% of the Kenya Kwanza cabinet will be the women of the Republic of Kenya. We have also undertaken that within 3 months we will have a mechanism, and within 12 months we will execute and attain the 2/3 gender principle that is provided for in the Constitution. And we have agreed that women and young people who have LPOs will become automatic beneficiaries of the Hustler Fund without any further requirements. Our persons living with disability, we had an engagement with them, and I see them around. And we agreed with them that all people living with disability will be enrolled in NHIF in the first 18 months. We also agreed that integrated schools to allow children living with disability to start interacting with the general public, to restore their confidence and self-esteem. We also agreed that we increase capitation of pupils living with disability by another 50% and set aside 15% of public funded bursaries set aside for pupils living with disability. Let me also, we will continue the program we have on roads, complete fast all the stalled road projects, and reassess in accordance with the proposals that were made to us in the county forums. In the county forums, several roads were suggested that would make the economies of those counties work better. We will work with the counties and the county priority roads so that we can go into the future with the road infrastructure that is there. And then finally, I will go to governance. And before I go to governance, let me speak to something about water. Water is very important as a principle. We have sat down with experts and we have agreed that this time round we are going to have a different strategy of deploying water, especially from the big dams. We have 57 dams that we already identified as government last term. We have changed, or we have agreed to work on a different strategy of delivery. The same way we have power purchase agreements, we are going to work on water purchase agreements so that we can bring the private sector on board. There are many people who are willing to invest in our huge dams or even in underground water. For example, the Turkana aquifer. There are proposals from the private sector that if we give them a water purchase agreement, they will be able to invest their own money. And the same way they sell us power, they can sell us water. So we believe that that is the future to delivery of water from big dams, so that it leaves government to work on climate smart water harvesting initiatives, water harvesting programs, implement policy that will ensure that we harvest and harness all the water that we can as we work with the private sector to deliver water from our aquifers and from our large dams. Finally, then I will take a few questions. Let me go finally to governance. We are the team that will complete the implementation of the 2010 Constitution. We believe that rather than mutilate the Constitution for political expediency, there is a lot that needs to be completed in terms of implementing the 2010 Constitution. Kenya Kwanza will end political weaponization of state institutions. This includes the criminal justice system, tax authorities, anti-corruption institutions, and the entire security apparatus. We want these institutions to operate independently as is expected of them by the Constitution. In our first 100 days, we will implement the constitutional requirement of a police service commission to have its own budget and its own accounting officer. We do not believe that the police should be begging for money from the office of the president. The police should run its own independent budget with its own accounting office. The saying, "He who pays the piper calls the tune," is the current problem with our criminal justice system. We are also going to operationalize on our first day in office the Judiciary Fund, and as established by the Constitution. We believe the judiciary must be independent, operationally, constitutionally, and financially. The 2.5% of the budget required to run the judiciary will be made available to the judiciary so that the judiciary can run its course, deliver justice, and do so in a timely manner. Because justice delayed is justice denied. Kenya Kwanza will end all unauthorized evictions and property demolitions. The kind of spectacle we see in Kariobangi and Korogosho is not only inhuman, it is unconstitutional, and it should never be allowed to happen to any other country. Kenya Kwanza will end ethnic profiling in the issuance of identity documents. And we will specifically establish an administrative appeal tribunal to ensure a fair and transparent process in the registration of persons with clear appeal procedure of not more than 14 days if a person is denied registration. Of course, we will appoint all the judges nominated by the Judicial Service Commission to the Court of Appeal. Of course we will. And we will do it within 7 days. Kenya Kwanza will ensure that we respect, we protect, and defend freedom of worship. We will lift the existing moratorium on registration of new religious organizations and expedite the registration processes. We will complete the transfer of all functions constitutionally earmarked as devolved functions to counties within 3 months. And we will strengthen the intergovernmental institutions of Council of Governors, IBEC, the Summit, and make sure that they meet regularly. We will, of course, respect the devolved system of government and review the formula for sharing national resources between the two levels of government and allocation of the revenue by either level of government to take into consideration population and other factors provided for under the law. On public service and our security services, we will ensure that there is a contributory benevolent fund for families of fallen and terminally ill officers, including mental illness. We will harmonize affordable housing mortgages similar to that of the judiciary and parliament to be available for our public service and the police. We will ensure that there is horizontal transfer options for people in service with the rest of the public service. It should be able to transfer your services between the police, public service, the civil service, so long as they are the same cadres. We'll ensure that there is an insurance cover for loss of life while on duty for all police officers, similar to that of the military. Security sector reform is good for everyone, and police reform efforts must not be wound back. Therefore, we will ensure that within the first 100 days, the Kenya Kwanza administration will commission a review that will consider improvement of remuneration and terms of service for all officers in the security sector to be commensurate with the current cost of living. And finally, we will deploy robust, creative, and engaging foreign exchange policy to raise Kenya's profile as a regional anchor state and amplify our partnership with the rest of the world, including Africa, USA, China, Europe, United Kingdom, India, among other partners. We will give a place of prominence to the role of Kenya's diaspora, including a ministry to take care of diaspora issues. Kenyans are rightfully skeptical of lofty promises and seemingly well-crafted plans that never get implemented. We have developed this plan well aware that this plan will stand or fall on implementation. We believe that the implementation plan outlined in this manifesto will demonstrate to Kenyans that this plan is rigorously appraised and financeable within the resources constraints that we face. Thank you very much.
Freedom is coming tomorrow.
Right, let's take our seats again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Another round of applause for His Excellency, the Deputy President, and Kenya's 5th President, inshallah. Let's get a few questions now from the audience. I will start there. Dennis.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Charles Karondo from Kiharu, Murang'a County. And first of all, I really want to congratulate you for the great plan that you have shared with us today. Before I ask the question, I also want to note that today I feel it for the IBC chair, because wherever he is listening to this speech today and the manifesto, he must really be having a hard time restraining himself from converting this into an inauguration ceremony and just swearing in the 5th president. Now, Your Excellency, my question goes on the issue of health. I have heard you mention in the plan something to do with her.
I really tell you that what I've seen here today should be what you should be doing every day. What I've seen here today should continue after the 9th of August. When we take over the government, we are going to inherit a very, very huge debt. Don't you dare be told, and let truth be told today. Some people are saying that in the first 100 days, they are going to do this, they are going to do that. As we are inheriting problems, we are inheriting deficit, we are inheriting financial disaster. The issue of happiness should not be there. Let us rejoin ourselves. Let's look into ourselves. Let's look at ourselves in the mirrors. What kind of government are we inheriting? We are inheriting a bankrupt economy. And for the first 100 days, not 100 days, 500 days, or let me say 6 months, or let me say probably 1 year, we are going to have to work very hard. It will be a period of tears. It will be a period of not ululation, not harmony, but a period of disaster. Because we shall be like, now, where do we go from here? Do we continue borrowing, or do we sacrifice to have what we have? I'm going to sacrifice my gold, the one that my daughter bought me when she passed her exam. I'll sacrifice this. We'll put it somewhere and melt it to cure the disasters of this country for the first 1 year as we grow hemp. We are also going to look at judiciary. We are also going to look at the judiciary and we shall ask ourselves, why were these laws made and who made this law and for what purpose? Were these laws made to injure and punish the poor, to have them last in poverty? Or were these laws made for the rich people, or to punish young people who have no employment, who have nowhere to go? When they see something like marijuana, to actually treat their emotions, they are arrested and beaten and thrown in jail. Is that what we want with the judiciary? Or do we want to have a new mechanism of judiciary so that people can participate in that judiciary to have proper judicial outcome? Or do we have to have this archaic law from Britain? These punitive laws that were brought in by the colonial masters. And we are told, this is the law, you have to follow it. Whose law is it? We have to introduce what we call subaltern laws, laws of the people. And the only way we can introduce laws of the people is to suspend the Constitution, to suspend part of that Constitution, to suspend the Constitution. When I say suspend the Constitution, the first people to attack me are those people in suits and ties, people who purport to have gone to school, people who purport to know that law is made to be a law. Tunafuata sheria, tunafuata sheria. Hiyo sheria mkifuata namna hivyo, tunaungua. Ukienda nchi zingine watu wamesema pana, let us have alternative dispute mechanism. Ili mtu akiiba kuku ya mtu, tujue ni kwa nini aliiba hiyo kuku ya mtu. Aliiba hiyo kuku ya mtu akiwa na njaa, ndiye achinjie watoto wake wakule to survive. Survival for this. Ama unashikwa na polisi, uwezi kuulizwa kwa nini umeiba. Can we call the owner of the chicken and ask him, look in my eyes. If you are angry like this man, and your children were sleeping hungry, and maybe has a wife who has given birth and there's nothing the wife can eat to maintain the child, and maybe he was afraid that if he asked you, you'll chase him away, would you really do this kind of thing? Therefore, we need reconciliation at all levels. We need reconciliation at all levels. We need to talk to each other. We need laws that harmonize relationships between people or the hemp tribe. We don't need now to call the police and the chief. Something like Changa. A child came to my home recently, a little boy, and he said, Dad, I want you to listen to me. Then I said, what is it? He said, I've passed my exam. My mom brews Changa. I can't go to school because the Changa that was brewed yesterday to be taken to Marach Estate in Busia, the chief came and threw it away. Therefore, I have no money to go to school. What would you do to such a kind of a child? Ladies and gentlemen, what will you do to such kind of child? What will you do to that chief who comes to pour that drink to deny this boy or this girl a chance? Answer me. Answer me. What will you do if you go home and you find that something very petty has led to someone being arrested and denied his life? What I did is I said, son, I'll take you to school. And my PA is here. Wambua, stand up. That's the guy who does everything that I do. I told him, find out where the school is. Of course, it was just next to me. And get fee for that kid to be paid for a year. On top of that, we also gave a stipend. And as I speak, there is also a young Maasai man in this room. Where's Nchoko? That young man, I met him when he was in Stare Boys. His socks were torn. It was at YWCA. And he came to me and he's like, I am an orphan. That's why I'm in Stare. But I always thought that Stare Boys was for the best. I didn't know that it was for the orphans. Then I realized that his socks was torn. And I said, haven't they given you school you were? He said, no. The rest is up to him. He has already graduated with Bachelor of Commerce from Mount Kenya University, courtesy of our office. But then do we need to tell the world with whatever little that we do? Do we need to brag that we have done this and this and that? That's why we go wrong with the political entities in this country. They do something small, they want cameras to follow them so that they are seen to be doing what they have to do. Now, before I continue, let's now look at that, our manifesto. I will start by saying, number one, I don't know whether you can hear me. If you have access, or if your eyes have access to the shutters on the ground, on the top of the room, our manifesto number one says we shall legalize weed. But I would like Dr. Guada to come and stand near me, because that man is a blueprint of information that this country has refused to follow. This man has of recent advised a president in the neighboring country to start marijuana, and he has started it, though I will not name the president. Professor, if I go wrong, just pardon me and take over. But because of time, I'll go very fast. Number one, 1 acre of Bangi can earn you $78,000 or 8 million per harvest. Per harvest. A harvest takes only 6 months. Now, if you have to harvest, that is 16 months, you earn 16 million. Of course, it will come with the tax implications so that you can raise money and revenue for the government to continue with what it ought to do. The whole of Nyeri county is 583,000 acres. This means that if we grew bank in Nyeri County, Nyeri residents will earn 45 billion US dollars or 4.6 trillion per harvest. Kenya today owes China, or the debt we have today is $10 trillion. Mengine unaweza kujijazia. What happened? Is that where we... Where's number one? Where's number one? I thought we started with number one. Yes. And because Banki is harvested twice a year, it means Nyeri residents will earn $92 billion or 9.2 trillion every year. This means if we grew Bang for export, Nyeri is in 1 year, will earn the equivalent of Ethiopia's GDP. If we grew Bang in Nyeri alone, as you see, each Kenyan could get a dividend check. In Nyeri, each Kenyan would get a dividend check of 200,000 Kenya shillings every year from the sale of bangi. That's Nyeri only. That means that we shall be very happy with that amount just from one county. Semeni haleluya. Kila mtu atakuwa anafanya nini? Ana pesa yake. Utakuwa na bodaboda ya nini? Utauza miraa. Si miraa ikitoka una export tu na huko na pesa ingine extra. Utakaa kwako ama utakaa kwako? Utajenga nyumba ya mabati ama ya tiles? Tuendelee. If we grew bangi in Nyeri alone, we would build 3 expressways in each county in Kenya. 2 express in each county in Kenya. If we grew bangi in Nyeri alone, Kenya could buy Bill Gates and Microsoft in just 2 years. Canada, last year alone, of 75,000 acres, harvested $486 billion US. And you see all the drones you see flying here and there, they are made up of fiber, which is from hemp. If you look at Canada, this year, they manufactured the first plane made out of hemp, a product of marijuana. Now, if that plane was to land in Kenya today to pick up passengers because of international law, has Kenya got any jurisdiction to go and inspect the fabric of that plane? Let us stop joking. Let us stop being given unfair promises that cannot be fulfilled. We have the solution. And please let me finish. You know, I went to school slowly. I was not metric. There was a point that was down there. But let's continue. Yes. If we grew bank in Nyeri alone, Kenya will have 10% of IMF total cash reserves. In short, we'll never have to borrow a single coin in future. And Kenya will become the richest country in the world. Mount Kenya was made wealthy by 2 cash crops, coffee and tea. In fact, Kikuyus got their economic head start in 1923 when they were allowed to grow coffee and tea. Before 1923, it was illegal for any indigenous Kenyan to grow both crops. Bangi is our next cash crop. It grows widely in Mount Kenya. Question is, if we required the permission of Muzungus, who have now legalized bangi, why should we legalize? We have punitive laws. We have punitive laws which were imposed on Kenyan parliament through foreign aid, NACADA. Na wakati wametengeneza hiyo sheria, because wameambiwa msipotengeneza hii sheria tutawapatia mkopo, unaona wengine wanaenda kucheza hapo akisema I've now made the rule, I've now made the rule. I wish there was a mimic here. Wanaenda ku rejuvenate, putting our men and women in jail for things that are not proper, having punitive regulations in this country that are putting our country outside the circles of morality. That's why we should have morality and solidarity. Repeat after me, morality and solidarity.
Morality and solidarity.
That is Roots Party for you. But for the others, and repeat after me, is morality and is solidarity and immorality. Solidarity and immorality. That's what you see, and that's how I define our opponents. Because they are in solidarity with immorality. They are telling us lies, package of lies, package of lies. They are not telling us how. We are telling you how. And that is the truth. It takes a man like Daktari here, who first of all started this crusade, went to the Senate twice, was thrown out because the pharmaceutical companies that I'm opposed to, who make medicines, have got what we call the lobbying skills. When they hear that Kenya wants to legalize bangi, they will call in the ministers concerned. Can you come for a talk in Britain? Whatever monies they are given probably, and we know and have figures, and trust me, I'll trash some of these opponents when they bring wakilete tu nyoko mina siaga manaki niko na nini. Yeah, you get them with bank accounts in Singapore. In Singapore, and I know who has money in Singapore and Dubai. In Singapore, so long as you can pay taxes on monies that you take there, that becomes legal. The wash that we know, the monies are taken to Singapore, they pay 15%, and then they bring it through Dubai to this country. Some of those opponents, let me tell you this, because I have the information, have staffed companies in Dubai to wash money. When the time for hanging comes, I will hang those ones when the laws are there. Tunataka kila mtu atuambie, including myself, ni pesa ngapi uko nayo? Hizi nyumba unaishi ulitoa wapi? Hii magari uko nayo umetoa wapi? Hii watoto wako kila wakati wakiwa wagonjwa naenda ngambo unapelekanga namna gani? Hii uongo unatudanganya kila siku unatudanganya kwa nini? It's up to you guys to ask. It's my humble opportunity to exercise. It's my humble opportunity to exercise your right to vote. To guard that vote, as Mr. Kanye has said. Mr. Kanye that you saw there is a world scientist. He has worked for NASA in the US. He's a statistician, very humble man, and probably that's why Justina chose him. Because if you look at Justina, umeona kama amechoka kwa uso? Umeona kama amechapa? So huyo mnaweza kumwamini na wasichana wenu. That's why alichukua kwa kamjamaa. Nafikiria hiyo ni mambo tutaongea baadaye. Number 2, snakes. Snakes. The Bible says that a snake, which they call a serpent, was a very brave animal. Inaendelea kusema kwamba hiyo ndiyo ilidanganya Adam, Eve. Na hiyo ni story zao, hataki kwenda in between, because kunasemekana kwamba kulikuwa na matunda ilikuliwa huko. Na watu wengine wakakasirika, ndio kwa maana watu wakaanza kujiona uti. Like the kind of snake I'm talking about, ni ile snake yenyewe, original. Hata mimi, nikiwaonyesha hivi journalists, hii yote ni majeraha ya python, when I was a young boy. How it really squeezed me to swallow me. To swallow me. When I was young. Thank God I'm still alive. So I know the dangers of a snake. But the good part of it, the good part of that snake I'm talking about, is that it's carrying something in it. It is carrying something in it that is very productive, that will give us $1 billion US per year. Na mimi nataka watu wachanuke tafadhali. Tumezoea ile lugha ambayo tunafundishwa kila siku for the last 50 years. Tukiambiwa kitu kama hiyo wengine wanakimbia, na wale bloggers wa ule mwingine. Wale bloggers wa ule mwingine ambao mmechukua jina yangu kuongea on my behalf. Endeleeni tu, lakini your lies will soon be disapproved on the 9th when I take over as the president of this country. Wengine wanajiita at Professor Wajakoya kwa Facebook. Ile kizungu wanaandika haki ya Mungu kisoma, unajijazia. We will rear snakes. Can I come back to my snakes, please? Allow me to go the way I am. I'm a professor of law. We will rear snakes. If we did snake farming, each venomous snake farmer will earn an average of $6,000 or $600,000 per vial antivenom. Kadogo tu hivi unanyonga kidogo, kanatoka chui, kanaingia kwa chupa. Ako peke yake is 600 Kenya shillings unaweka kwa mfuko, unaiwacha inaendelea. Alafu inasemekana hapo kwamba, for example, a cobra farmer will make $6,300 from a vial of cobra antivenom. If you harvest black mamba antivenom, a Kenyan farmer will take $5,300 per vial. Supposing you have 3 snakes. Nyoka 3 tu. Na mtaonyeshwa kuvuga. Mtaonyeshwa how to keep them. You will be shown because the government will give you money from ganja to put a proper infrastructure. Here you are a ganja farmer. Na unaweka uchimani ya nyoka kule kwa ganja ndio mtu asije kukuibia usiku. Alafu una harvest both sides. Will you not be happy? Will you not be happy? Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you that we have wealth. We have wealth in our country. We don't need to depend on these people anymore. You had the Rastafarian saying here. They said something about Patricia Lumumba. They talked about Haile Selassie. They talked about freedom of emancipation from slavery. When we look around ourselves and we ask ourselves questions, for how long are we going to be dictated upon? For how long are we going to be unemployed? For how long are we going to be told lies? Kazi kwa vijana, alafu napewa wheelbarrow na kijiko. So mmepewa hiyo. Alafu naambiwa at the bottom up ikienda juu na wheelbarrow. Na wewe umesoma kizungu, wewe umesoma kwa university, unaenda nyumbani, unaambiwa ati sisi tutakupanga, ati kina boda boda, kina mama. There will be no mama mboga in our government. Kila mtu atakuwa ni enough. There will be no wheelbarrows in our government. Kila mtu alikuwa enough. There will be no hypocrisy in our government. Kila mtu atakuwa enough. There will be no lies. There will be no lies in our government. Kila mtu atakuwa na yake. There will be no theft in our government. Kila mtu atakuwa na pesa yake. Ukienda Greater Somalia, which hived itself from Somaliland, or let me say Somaliland Republic, kulikuwa na mambo mengi ya shifter na gorilla na nini, lakini saa hizi ukienda huko, you can leave your money safe. You don't need to have a bank outside na unalala kwako. Lakini hapa mtu anakuibia, alafu anakuja kukuambia wheelbarrow. Mwingine anatoka huko, anakuambia I'll give you 6,000. What can 6,000 do to you? Surely. What can 6,000 do? I'll give you 6,000. Nawe mwenyewe tuambie ile pesa uko nayo ulitoa wapi? Wewe tuambie kila siku your family ndio wanaenda bunge wanakuwa hii na come on Kenyans, wake up. My brother is here. He's not even a member of the Roots Party. Where is he? Hey, can you stand up? Yeah. That's my brother, anaitwa Muzito Warumba kwa small radio station kule Bungoma. Lakini yeye namtreat tu kama nyinyi. Hakuna special treatment hapa. Alikuwa anataka kusimama kura, just sit down. Nikamwambia it's your democratic right but not on my party. Because ukijaza mama yako, brother yako, nyanya yako, auntie yako, mnaenda bunge kufanya nini? Why can't you give other people an opportunity? Why can't you give a Rastaman an opportunity as a nominated member of parliament? Why can't you give people who are down there opportunity to be who they are? Why must you be the one having everything? Ukiendesha gari ukienda mahali karibu na mtu mwingine ukiona nyumba to otno en marnga, yani hiyo nyumba ni ya nani? Unataka kujua mwenye hiyo nyumba kama amekuletea pesa. Justina is a very strict person here, and my Secretary General Adam also just stand around here to be seen. Watu hawana mchezo. When it comes to nomination, ukija na meno ya paka watakwambia get out of this place. Thank you Justina. Sisi nomination yetu ilikuwa kali sana. We did not want hooliganism. You will never see professor's brother or sister akiwa karibu na mimi. Brokers, that's what I'm talking about. There's no brokerage. All of you are my brothers and sisters. That's why I'm here. Mchina, nitakuja kwa Mchina baadaye. We will export dog meat. Wengine wameanza kusema tu ati wengine, there's nothing wrong kulala na umbwa yako. There's nothing wrong kutembea na umbwa yako. Dogs are medicine to us also. They are healing. But then we have got excess market of dogs in Lubao market in Kakamega, where we have so many poor people. Where I come from, we have so many dogs. The dogs that were in Mathare North, Wachina walikula wakamaliza. Unasikia tu kadogi kamefanywa kitu, kamewekwa dawa, kamepotea. But we shall export dog meat to China. We shall export hyena meat in China. Because fisi, hatuhitaji fisi katika Kenya hii. Mchina anakulanga fisi. Na tukichukua mimi nasikia 1000 fisi 1000. Fisi 1000 wanaume wako na makende 2000. Na mimi nasikia hiyo makende ya fisi ni dawa kwa China. Let's speak it the way it comes. Kwa hivyo hiyo makende iko na bei mingi sana kushinda hata ganja. Kende moja ni karibu milioni 6. Kwa hivyo we shall export makende ya fisi, dog meat, pamoja na fisi. One kilogram of dog meat costs 6 times more than the price of a kilogram of goat meat. Kenya exports beef, goat and lamb the Middle East, for instance, wherever it is. Kwa hivyo nimewaambia tena, acha nirudie hiyo point nikiemphasize. Nyama ya nyoka inaenda China. Wakishakula then tumelipa.
Ingiza mti.
Alafu ngozi ya nyoka takuwa na industry hapa ya kutengeneza viatu na kutengeneza kila kitu. This time we are the ones going to export snake skins. Hatutapeleka huko ndio tuuzie tena. Tuendelee. Number 4. Haya, hapa nataka mnisikize vizuri. Hapa nataka mnisikize vizuri. Kuna mtu anaitwa Kemsa. Kuna mtu anaitwa Kimoror Dam. Kuna mtu anaitwa Kura. Kenya Rural sijui nini roads. Tunajua hizo contracts nani wamechukua na kawagawanya. Family ngapi? 3 tunazijua. Niseme nisiseme? Haya. Tuna procurement issues na my sister here has a masters in procurement. Ikitokezea mahali kuna familia ngapi? 5 ambazo zimegawanya Kenya. Mimi niko na solution. Because hatuwezi kufanya hivi kila wakati mtu anatoa pesa. Anakuwa the most revered faithful, naenda kununua Mungu ndio akulinde na pesa za wizi. Mungu hatakubali mwizi aende amununue. Hata Yesu mwenyewe alikataa kununuliwa alipoonyeshwa ati in my kingdom yote ni yangu. Hii mikate iko hapa, kuna tudemu hapa, namna hii na namna ile, inama chini unipigie magoti. Yesu alimwambia huyo mtu alisema nini? Mnasikia hiyo ni yenu. Kwa hivyo hapa kumekuwa na watu they just take no discipline in our society, especially in those who are in social fabric, who are bound to bring social relationships within people. If you see somebody who is meant to cure you emotionally, psychologically, and to bring you back to fold, taking stolen money without asking the source of that revenue, taking stolen money, buying himself a candle and reaching himself. The same way somebody tried to bring 200 million to me. Ati nichukue hiyo pesa ndio niende ni campaign kwa opponent yake, ndio opponent yake aanguke. Imagine what would have happened to all of you who believe in us. Ninunuliwe na pesa kidogo ndio sasa ile furaha mko nayo iende chini. Nitatembea Nairobi, simtaninyonga. Simtaninyonga. I am on the ballot to do that. We shall hang those people when we put legislation in place. When we suspend the constitution, part of what we are going to ask them is, can we revert to death penalty? Or can we hang them? Because in China, when you steal in China, they hang you. In Japan, when you suspect yourself to have stolen from the government, you commit suicide. In Britain and America and Germany, they take you to jail. But in Kenya, you go to parliament. That is why you see a lot of punitive laws from Nakada, punitive laws and proclamation from those who believe that.
And also close loopholes and digitize so that we can collect all collectible revenues, especially VAT and corporate tax. That way, we will have not only resources to run our affairs, but we will also have resources to retire our debt. And lastly, as I said here, we are already in a hole. So the first thing we will do is to stop digging. If you read the newspaper, yesterday, it said we are borrowing 2.5 billion shillings every day. So the hole is still, so we'll stop digging first. I will ask my good brother Musalia to say the balance.
Thank you, Ndugu Deputy President. I just want to pick up from where you have touched, to stop digging. One of the critical areas is to make sure that the programs we are talking about are within the confines of a balanced budget, so that we can cut down on the desire or the appetite to borrow. The Deputy President has given examples of how we can grow revenue, but on the other side, we must make sure that we start working towards curtailing these huge budget deficits that we have, so that we can tame this issue that we call debt. And he has given you
our plan.
The profile. You have the domestic debt, and then you have the external debt. Both have inherent risks. The domestic debt cripples the economy, cripples lending, and so forth. The external debt can also put you into a lot of difficulty when the exchange rate is in trouble, and we are beginning to see a bit of that now. The central bank is rationing foreign exchange, and we are beginning to see our importers beginning to have trouble in getting raw materials for their factories. So we have to work on that basis. But I want to assure you, and the Kenyans who are listening, that there's also honor in making sure that you settle your obligations. So we as a Kenya Kwanza government will make sure that we honor our obligations, because these are sovereign debt. They may have been entered into difficult situations, but primarily.
Aka kachuma kutoka Mombasa mpaka Naivasha. Ako kachuma na kaweka ndani ya meli. Nachukua tu Chinese tunaweka kwa hiyo meli. They went to Sri Lanka. They took the port of Sri Lanka as collateral. Sri Lanka now is bankrupt.
And better risk assessment and management of our public debt. When we take over, we will make sure that that bill finds its way to the floor of the House.
All right, so that is what we have been covering for you, the launch of Manifestos for both the Kenya Kwanza coalition and the Roots party. There you've seen the presidential flag bearers for both political formations taking time to break down their promise for the country. On one side, Professor George Wajakoya, who is going to be flying the Roots party ticket, breaking down what he hopes to to implement if in case Kenyans decide to vote him in as the next president. And also Deputy President William Ruto also taking time to do the same. So just to run you through the manifesto by the DP, it is centered around several key pillars. One include investment in agriculture, which the DP says is the biggest multiplier of jobs. And of course, he has broken down how he plans to invest in this crucial sector and opportunities that can be tapped from the agricultural sector. And of course, also talking about his plan to transform the MSMEs, and of course talking about one of the key issues standing out there is what he termed as the Hustler Fund. That is a 50 billion worth of fund that is going to be used to support small-scale traders going forward. And of course also his agenda centered around housing, his strategy for affordable housing, and also making Kenyans homeowners, how he's going to partner with private developers to come up with a plan to make homes available for Kenyans. He also spoke about his plans for boosting the manufacturing sector, which he says he's going to focus more on making it labor intensive as opposed to, what he says is the current situation, which focuses mostly on the capital intensive. And of course, also looking at other opportunities by creating a digital highway. The Deputy President there leading the Kenya Kwanza coalition to promise Kenyans to expand internet connectivity. And he cited how practically he's going to take advantage of the available, resources to make this happen. And of course, his plan for the tourism sector also laying it bare, saying it's time to change how we approach the tourism sector, not to make it high-end, but make it affordable, reachable, so that it can be able to, be opened up to create more job opportunities for Kenyans. He cited the aviation and how it is a growing sector, and the plan to develop a turnaround strategy for KQ within 2 years. He went all the way to also talk about the sporting, sector and how he plans to develop infrastructure in this sector. And I can go on and on about this, but of course, just to take you also through what Professor George Wajackoyah cited as his key priorities. One of them is even what we were discussing earlier, legalizing marijuana or bang, if you like, and what his justification for this is the economic value that it has, and how he hopes to use the money that is going to be generated from this sector, exportation of marijuana, to help in areas such as paying the growing public debt, among others, and also putting money in the pockets of Kenyans. And this, he said, also will solve other problems that Kenyans are facing. And of course, also rearing of snakes. This is snake farming. He's looking at the economic value of the venom from snakes. A good example, he said there, if I don't want to go into the numbers, but that is one thing also that he's talked about to back up his plan to boost the economy, export of dog meat, death penalty for the corrupt officials in government. And of course, that is just part of what Professor George Wajackoyah plans to do for Kenyans should he be elected president. I've been having this conversation with political analyst Churchill Saoke. He's also a governance expert. Saoke, you were with me here as we were looking and just listening to some of the promises that both the presidential candidates had for Kenyans. Your quick comments for both of them, and what stood out for you, and even how they, passed the information to Kenyans, how they broke it down to Kenyans.
Well, the approach of Kenya Kwanza was more, he started more as giving out the lectures and just trying to dissect some of the key thematic areas and the ways in which they can be done. And then I think later on is when he now began to talk about the things that they could do. Of course, there is the absence of Kabogo. That's quite phenomenal politically. It signals into something. The other thing is that when you look at the whole manifesto, it's more centric to production. using production to increase revenue collection of the country. And that he has given a very strong emphasis on that, and he has, apparently he has a lot of interest in agriculture. When you could read through, he even spent a lot of time on the agriculture. So the focus on growing the economy through increasing revenue is very big there. There are other aspects that I saw there which rose, like the issues of amalgamating or bringing together the higher education, generally the post-secondary education, into a unified council. That's quite an ambitious goal, and as to how it is going to work, I'm very pessimistic about that, because the challenges that are facing the higher education sector are not necessarily structural. There are things that need to be looked at in a more deeper way, because it's about how do you enable these higher education institutions to access more funding that can be able to finance the courses or the skills that the courses that some of these institutions are training them on. So the aspect of bringing help and TVET and together under the university fund does not really help anything. It just brings the council as one, unless you bring more resources there. The other thing that stood out for me, which I think is quite progressive, is the issue of expanding cotton production, which had already been started. This is something that will take us into the reign when the cotton production was huge here. The only big thing which he did not mention, which is still a big problem today in the productivity, growing the productivity in agriculture, is the issue of cartels. Because the reason why some of the sectors, like sugarcane, maize sector, the reason why some of these sectors have been collapsing is not because of lack of money or something. It's because of deliberate attempts by specific cartels to bring these goods from outside. Therefore, bringing cheap goods from outside, making the local products, rendering the local products, out of the market. So that one, unless they have a mechanism to sort that issue, then the question of production in the agricultural sector is not going to be handled by the remedies that has been proposed. And I think also the other very progressive ideas that they have brought around standardization of housing, quite progressive. I mean, as countries advance, the need to standardize infrastructure is very important. When you look at countries like Japan, you will find that the standard of housing, even the companies that construct these houses have to be, they are regulated on what kind of houses they are supposed to construct, where, and therefore you find in a city, for example, the houses are the same, like it's owned by one person. So it's quite progressive, and I think it's something that even any other regime that comes into power should actually pick up.
All right. There's something that stood out about how he began this whole. When he began his speech, he said, "This is not a manifesto; it's a plan." He called it a plan, and we all remember that this is coming at a time when the Kenya Kwanza Alliance has just concluded, its round of what they call the economic forums across the 47 counties. Do you think this would give Kenyans some level of assurance that the manifesto or the plan, whichever you choose to call it, is a representation of the interest of the country? It's what the nation, spoke from the Kenya Kwanza's as a point of view.
Usually when you look at how politicians bring out manifestos, they will, of course, you will take out researchers outside there to go and get information as to what do the people aspire, what do they desire, would they wish new leadership to do. Then after that, the leaders will do technical papers. They'll do technical writings or things like that. And from those technical papers, the politicians will draw out the technical papers into information that the people can relate with. All right? So they demystify the technical papers into information that people can relate with. And when you look at, for example, when he started, you know, he became extremely technical. And I think some people are talking about this being more like an academic paper or something of that sort. And it was to the end that he now began now to relate with what, you know, try to relate the things that he was talking about with what now they intend to do. Because remember that all the people who are viewing this were interested or are interested in what are you going to do in spite with the to solve some of these challenges that you have gotten. And you know, one of the things that I would have advised the Kenya Kwanza team is that they need to be very careful with the figures that they give. Because sometimes figures have a way of binding you if you are not sure of the specific figures. Because, you know, you can pick random figures like, for example, the Hustler Fund of 50 billion shillings, which is supposed to be given to, you know, people around 15 million. When you divide that, you get around 3,000 shillings. I get it. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, but he said that he worked with a team of technocrats, about 250 plus technocrats who were part and parcel of this journey before this document was crafted. Don't you think there was research, there was a lot of comparison here there that may have informed some of the figures that the Deputy President was, quoting tonight?
What usually happens is that the figures will always be there, but you know, sometimes what happens in political communication is that you have to find ways of making the figures to appeal to the audience. So that is the point where you have to be very careful. So, you know, the technical paper will tell you what is right, but sometimes what is right is not what will able to it's not sellable to the people. So you have to scale it up. You know, like for example, when you're talking about we are losing this much money, or you know, we can be able to get this much money, you know, people will, you know, just the same way now you look at what Wajakoya is talking about. Wajakoya is telling you, is already opening our minds that, you know, out of growing marijuana, you can actually you can actually pay off the debt of this country. So even investors will begin to think that actually this can be done. Lobby groups will begin to imagine that, you know what, I think this is something that we could think about. You know, pharmaceutical firms, they're already beginning to think that, you know what, these snakes have got venom that can help us produce something, you know. So those figures help to scale some sort of perception and imagination in the minds of people that makes them to see value in the manifesto.
When you listen to the DP and even Professor Wajakoya, did you get that feeling of specifics in the manner in which they plan to implement some of these proposals, some of which may require change or an amendment of the Constitution? Did you get, satisfied with the how part of the manifesto? You know,
when I'm thinking like an ordinary Kenyan, yes. When you're thinking like a technocrat, maybe no, to a percentage. Because there are a lot of technicalities that will be involved, and this cuts across all the manifestos. You know, there are a lot of technicalities that will be involved. And, you know, like, for example, when you're dealing with the Wajakoya's, you know, Roots Party, when he wants to scale up the question of marijuana and, you know, people growing bang, you know, you're not yet looking at the social impact. You're only looking at the economic impact. But what is the social impact? What is going to be the impact of this in the young people, the children who are growing up and seeing marijuana being grown and it's legal and everybody can? What is going to be the impact of this on young people in terms of even crime and insecurity in the country? How is it going to make Kenya more stable? How is this going to be in terms of the institutions that have already been established by government to work against drug and substance abuse? Are you going to abolish them? Or are you going to tell them to tone down on their messaging? So you see, the message is so sweet to the ear. But in terms of the technicality from a technocratic perspective, it has got a lot of it has a lot of challenges. And remember, when you come to presidency and you are now the president of a country, you now have to look at every decision, policy decision that you make in a holistic view. Is it what impact is it going to have economically? What impact is it going to have socially? What impact is it going to have security-wise? Because you are now in charge of the country. If something is going to have an impact on the sovereignty of the country, then you have to stop it. So those are the intrigues. When you look at even the aspect of the Kenya Kwanzas, and when they're talking about the establishment of some of these funds, the issues that you might want to ask is, what is going to be the impact on already established institutions like the Uwezo funds, things like that, or is it just the same thing with a different name? So these are intrigues that when you get into power is when you realize that some of the projections and the things that you gave are not necessarily or practically achievable. And in fact, when you find when you get into political classes, they'll tell you that the campaign promises are for winning campaigns. They are for winning elections. Once you win the elections and you get into political positions, or you get into the positions, it's a different ballgame. I can tell you now that already in government, when the president is sworn in after 9th August, there are already things waiting for him to sign. And some of those things that she is waiting to, he's waiting to sign for, some of them are against the components of the manifestos they have promised. So they'll have to sit and say that, what are we going to do? Yet this
so
is
some things may still change even after the 9th of August.
Yeah.
Is 100 days enough to fulfill some of the promises we've had some of these presidential candidates tell Kenyans? For instance, passing the 2/3 gender rule within 3 months, eradicating all corruption cartels. We've had promises from, Raila Odinga, for example, saying that in his first 100 days is going to increase the monthly stipend for needy families from 2,000 to 6,000 within 100 days. And I can go on and on about what you've had them say they will do within 100 days. There's a lot to do around that time, considering the fact that it's a new administration. Still have to put your house in order. Should we believe what we hear?
Let me give you a history first of how the 100 days used to
this 100 days magic.
The 100 days magic was used by a number of the developed countries in the onset of democracy as a scorecard for new regimes, because it was believed that when a new government that comes into place is not able to achieve specific things within 100 days, then the possibility of them performing over their entire term is zero. And the reason is because there is always some sort of a systemic shock or a systemic trigger that comes in with the new regimes, because people fear, the system fears, and because of that fear, the new leader or the new regime is able to trigger specific policy issues that brings transformation and change in the entire system. So that is why the magic of 100 days is very key in assessing the scorecard of any leader or the scorecard of any government that comes into place. Now, the question that you asked about whether this is possible.
I've understood the concept of that magic of 100 days, but then are we being realistic?
That's now the big question, because there are some things that might be very difficult, but I can assure you that some of these people have been in government, so they know there are certain things that are running in government, or there are certain things that are just waiting the endorsement of executive for them to happen. So those are quick gains that any of the persons can come and pick and run away with. Okay, there are others that they will backtrack with, and for example, those that might involve, 2/3 gender rule. That's a huge thing. Like, for example, if you find in parliament or in both the bicameral parliament only two people from either of the gender gets into parliament, then you want to raise it to 2/3. It's not easy. It requires a whole not just systemic, but a whole legislative overhaul, which you might not even achieve within 100 days. So there are others that are meant to be sweet to the ear of the voters. Like when you tell the voters that you are going to reduce the cost of living within 100 days, I mean, that is something that is so sweet to the ear of any voter. And they will go around and speak about it, and I can assure you, those things sway the discourse in the local communities, in the social gatherings for people, because they believe those things will happen. It is just a few elitists who believe they can't.
All right. So many things to ask you, but unfortunately we've run out of time for this conversation. But two issues I want you to address before we wrap it up. When you listen to Professor George Wajackoyah, the Roots Party presidential flag bearer, what is it that as a country we cannot afford to ignore? Something that stands out for you that sends out a much bigger message about the status of what is happening in the country, even the status of the young people. And also talk to me about the unveiling of these manifestos at the same time. Were there any missed opportunities perhaps, especially at a time when Kenyans are sitting down to listen to these presidential candidates? Imagine if the four of them would have decided to launch their manifestos all at the same time. Let's talk about the future and the impact that this would have in the decision that Kenyans will make when it comes to the general election.
I think that for the Wajackoyah, there is the question of, there are very pertinent issues that are coming out, extremely scientific, pertinent things that are coming out on his passion for marijuana and the snake venom, which might need scientific interrogation. And because I'm looking at this from the perspective that, if the use of some of this could be helpful for purposes of medicinal value, then it might be important maybe to think about it just for that specific reason, and that might need a lot of regulatory measures by government, but not just legalizing it, because legalizing it will have too much negative impact into the social fabric of the country. If there is need for scientific evidence around that, and if there be considerations, because that could help build up certain aspects of creating pharmaceutical formulas or things, or pharmaceutical formulations that could help in treating specific diseases. That could be an issue. The other thing I see out of him is there is a segment of the population that he appears to have swayed, and the reason why he has swayed them is because that segment feels like the mainstream or the traditional political system has excluded them. And so their display of colors, their display of dreadlocks, their display of, this unique, funny dressing is just a way to show that, give us attention, listen to us.
All right.
So that's what I see from him. The other thing about the presidential candidates and some of the missed opportunities, publicity is important, and I think for every politician publicity is very important. And the fourth estate is very key in providing fair play for some of these presidential candidates. It's very important to view ensure that in terms of even coverage, I'm not sure how we are doing it. We provide a level balanced play for all the candidates, just to ensure that the Kenyans, because ultimately you might find that there are a big segment of people who want to listen to the funny things and the comedy of Wajackoyah. They don't want to. They are too tired of the suits. They do the suits every 8 to 5,
right.
Monday to evening, Monday to Friday. So they want some comic, and through that comic is all they get. So That balance of airtime is very important, and this is just
still even planning in the planning.
The planning
we have what we call synchronizing the campaign schedules that IEBC really is pushing for. Why can't we have the same in some of these events, just to give Kenyans an opportunity to pay attention?
That's also could be something that.
All right, Churchill Saoke, Dr. Churchill Saoke, a political analyst and governance expert. Thank you for creating time for us and sharing a useful insight on the Manifestos launch today. Now, there you have it. 3 manifestos for you to interrogate and help you, make an informed decision. Ask yourself critical questions, even as you interact with these key documents. Does the manifesto augur well with your idea? Is the manifesto measurable and realistic? That means, does it give you the means to the promise that is captured in that particular manifesto? Don't just be excited about the promise that it carries. How is that promise going to be fulfilled? That's the most important part of what you need to do as a Kenyan between now and the 9th of August. My name is Safina Cheng Oma. Thank you so much for creating time for us. We are now going to be handing you over yet again to another conversation that is going to help you make informed decisions, the gubernatorial debate that we have been airing right here on KBC Channel 1. Today we are taking you to Kakamega as the candidates also have an opportunity to talk to the residents about their vision and plan for Kakamega County.